Welcome back to another 15-minute fix, everyone. We are so excited that you're here. We're excited to introduce you to a special guest today. We are segueing from our mini series on financial literacy, financial planning, which was a great series we were glad to do, followed by a special edition that we had last week on voting. So we hope that you truly made your vote count. We were excited to see that process come and go. We're now segueing into a series on self-care. And so we're so excited about that. So I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostest, Kimberly Robinson, and also
Hi.
Roshi, our special guest that you'll be meeting shortly. And we're so glad to have an expert here because, Kim, I think you would agree that if we could just sum up 2020 in one word, it would be what?
Stress.
Stress. 2020 has been so stressful to say the very least. Stress about jobs, having jobs, losing jobs, not being able to travel, not having our same outlets, family dysfunction, being quarantined with a family that you love, but still in quarantine, and so many other things, of course, health problems that goes without saying, COVID, voting, people not voting. It's just all been very stressful. So, what are we going to do about that? We are going to talk about self care. In the 15-minute fix, we've talked a lot about professional development, but the 15-minute fix is also for your personal development. So, we're excited to launch this series and dig into that. So, Kim, tell us a little bit about today's episode.
I'm really excited about today. I think a key part of our personal development is really has to do with our mental health. And while I have learned some things in my journey, that is not my area of expertise. So we're really excited to have Roshi here with us today. Roshi and I actually worked together as co-workers when we were both in the hospitality industry more than 10 years ago. And so we've both of our careers have come full circle, and happy to bring her here as an expert on mental health. So Roshi, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Of course, Kim. Thank you. And thank you, Kasha. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am Roshi. I am the traveling trauma therapist. And I'm so proud to hold that title because it just really encompasses both of my passions. One, traveling the world, and two, really doing the good work that I know that I was placed on this earth to do.
Mm.
So I am a licensed mental health counselor. After working in hospitality with Kim over a decade ago, uh, I really found my calling in therapy. So I started my work with military personnel, actually reintegrating back into society. And that went quickly into my master's program and into my work where I specialized and did my master's in mental health counseling, specializing in trauma. So trauma is, as you said, Kasha, so eloquently, it is so ever prevalent in all of the corners of our lives in this day and age. And I really, really see it coming through with my clients. I run my practice 100% online. I use specialized trauma protocols to address and clear unresolved trauma. And I've got to say that there has just been so much. There's been so much because of everything that you just listed and more, right? So, my main role as a therapist, I think the main role of any therapist is to provide support and perspective for our clients. I hold a safe sharing space. And even though it's virtual, it is a safe sharing space for my clients to come and really process what is going on, sift through all the crap in
Mhm.
life and really get down to the bottom. I mean, a lot of people come to therapy and they think, okay, I'm coming here to go on this journey to discover, all these things about my life and myself. And I challenge my clients to really think, no, you're on a journey to undo
Mhm.
patterns of thinking and behaving that no longer serve you, to get back to the true, authentic, genuine you. And
Mhm.
the way we do that is through therapy and truly through these specializations to clear this trauma.
That's
I
so
love that.
important. And I think we have to talk about this mental health space and also personal development in relation to professional development, because we know that one impacts the other. So we can't talk about how to show up at work and be the best version of ourselves without talking about the things of a personal nature first, because it impacts how we show up professionally as well. So tell us
Right.
a little bit about how you structure your sessions to make the most of your time with your clients.
That's an awesome question. And it's one that every client wants to know, right, when they're starting therapy. So this is a good one. So again, when clients come to therapy, when most people think about therapy, they think about, okay, I'm on this journey, I need to make a bunch of changes. And that is true. Ultimately, we do need to make change in order for change to occur. But before effective change can happen, we have to set a good foundation. We have to clear the space, right? We have to create the space, and we have to build a solid foundation. So the way I structure that in my sessions, through a workbook that I actually designed and authored, because I found that in order to affect change, my clients really did need a structure. Certainly, it's important to process what it is that we're thinking and feeling in life, just the everyday. Uh, but we need to have a tool, something to hold us accountable in order to have that change truly be long lasting and lifelong, right? We don't want temporary change.
Absolutely.
So, the way that I do that in this workbook, we start from the very, very basics with something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And just brief history lesson, Abraham Maslow was a psychologist who created this. It literally looks like a pyramid, and it's a hierarchy of human needs. And according to this pyramid, there are 5 sections of basic human needs that need to be attained in order for us to achieve self actualization. So, self actualization, is, in a nutshell, is essentially a person's motivation to find their or reach their full potential, rather, the best version of themselves. So, certainly aligned with what we're talking about in these segments here of personal and professional development. It's that self actualization. Even beyond that, it's the highest version of oneself. But to get to that, we start at the very base foundation, and those are your physiological needs. So, really basic stuff like air, food, water, rest, sex, but in the sense of procreation, keeping the species going, right? Then we have the next level up, which is safety. This can be our actual personal and physical safety. It can be things like our health or financial safety and resources, making sure that we have access to that to help provide for ourselves and our family. Uh, if we go a step higher, we're at love and belonging. That includes essentially our relationships, our friends, our family, sex in the sense of intimacy at this point. If we go a step higher, we're at esteem. That's our self esteem, confidence, things like respect and achievement. That's what we would have at that level. And finally, we reach that pinnacle, that point of self actualization, which is, of course, a person's best version of themselves. So, to keep somebody in that structure, we assess. We assess from the very basic needs: air, food, water, shelter, rest. We go up to safety. So, when my clients start with me, I'm making sure that we're on a plan to make sure that they're hydrated, to make sure that they're putting good things into their body physically, good things into their mind mentally, surrounding themselves, changing that environment. And then when we get up to the safety needs, what most people I think fail to realize is that when we have unresolved trauma, we don't feel safe. So essentially, anything on top of that level, so our love and belonging, our esteem, our self actualization, we cannot build upon that until we have resolved this area of safety. Certainly, people work on goals and we try to attain that, but it's like building on a house of cards if we don't address those safety needs. So, how we do that if we do have unresolved trauma?
Yeah.
Is through a series of, I use 2 specialized trauma protocols. One is called RTM, which stands for Reconsolidation of Traumatic Memories.
Mm.
And the other one is trauma-focused NLP, which is trauma-focused neurolinguistic programming. And they're basically just very fancy terms of saying that we're using safe visualization techniques to essentially change the way that your brain experiences that trauma. We're clearing feelings of fear or terror or helplessness that you may be experiencing present day. So we're undoing, right, all those patterns of thinking and behaving until we get down to the root stuff. And when we get down to the root stuff, that is where the work begins. That's where we can start, where most people think they're coming into therapy, which is making those changes, the emotional regulation, things like that.
Let me tell you
I
something
love that.
about preaching. I signed up for my consultation on your website while you were talking. Good. Absolutely. And I like that you said when you referenced best versions of ourselves, because I don't think people realize there are different versions of themselves. Y'all, there are versions. You got to know, is it the best version of yourself at that moment? So
Yes. I really also appreciate your holistic approach, Roshi, to this. I love that they talk about nutrition and all the things in between that really build up a person. When we talked, you talked a little bit about the 2190 rule. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I know that, it's really a journey that you talked about over 111 days, which may be daunting as you're starting this journey. But tell us a little bit about that 2190 rule, how that approach works, and how you can encourage your clients to stay on track throughout that long journey.
Of course. So the 2190 rule, really interesting. Cosmetic plastic surgeon, I believe he actually was. His name is Dr. Maxwell Maltz. I had to write that down. I always forget that. He came up with this concept on this journey of getting more living out of life. And it's this concept of it takes 21 days to create a habit and 90 days to create a lifestyle. So they are not concurrent, those are consecutive. So totaling 111 days. It can seem daunting. I have had people tell me, like, come on, I need a quick fix. And I mean, I know that the segment is called the 15-minute fix, but we do live in a day and age of instant gratification. We live in a day and age where we can get what we want, when we want it, how we want it, in the fashion that we want it, because of things like Amazon or the Google or Etsy or whatever it is, right? So it is interesting when I have people come to me and they want this quick fix. And I'm like, hey, we're undoing like 30 years of unresolved trauma. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
So before we can even get to that 2190-day rule, we got to do the unresolved trauma. And then at that 2190-day rule mark where we're starting, that's where the workbook comes into play, right? So the Essence of Wellness workbook, I designed specifically on this structure, specifically on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the 2190-day rule. And so it is actually a 120-day program, just because I added in a few extras into there. It's really meant to be a self-guided workbook. Anybody could read it, really follow the instructions and get really good benefit out of that. But certainly there are parts in this workbook in which we're doing some introspective work. And certainly we could all use some support from a trained professional when we're doing work like that. So I do offer, in addition to therapeutic sessions on my website, I also offer workbook consultation sessions, which is more geared toward the structure of keeping somebody or holding somebody accountable, rather, as they work through and make these changes and really affect long-lasting change in their lives.
Great.
That's amazing.
I also want to blame the microwave for everyone wanting for Americans in this instant gratification, but we've got to get out of that microwave mentality to clear this trauma. I would like to blame the microwave.
It's
Agreed.
Yes. And, I'm a process person, so I really appreciate how you create the structure. I have a hard time dealing in what I feel is abstract. So, knowing that there's already a tool available to give structure to this process, I think already makes me feel better about it. And I know that our sessions are just short here, but I already feel like I've gained so much to help, put perspective. And I hope our listeners really feel the same. I'm really looking forward to, seeing what other tools you have available. And you've already shared with us some really great resources, Roshi, and we appreciate that. Tell us a little bit more about some resources that you have available on your website and other places that our listeners can go to start that process of clearing their trauma.
Absolutely. So my website, I'm sure you guys can put a link for this video, but it is eowtherapy.com. The EOW stands for Essence of Wellness. Right there on the website, you can read about all my specializations and see what sessions would pertain to you. I do offer a variety of them. And then there's a scheduling page. Anybody can go on there. Right now, it's just eowtherapy.com/schedule, and you can schedule a free 30-minute video consultation if you need some more clarity on if these services are going to be beneficial for you and your specific needs. And then certainly I have the therapeutic sessions and I have the workbook sessions. And then, of course, the workbook for sale there or on Amazon. Outside of therapy and workbook stuff, I also have a blog called 4T, and it stands for the Traveling Trauma Therapist, my initials there. I really haven't been able to do much traveling during COVID, but I plan on resuming that soon. And really, that's just blogging about traveling and mental health and wellness kinds of resources and articles. And then I also have a page, which is, I think, my most favorite of the website, which is called Involved. So eowtherapy.com/involved. And it is my page to pay it forward. So this segment is on that website. Some of the drives that I do, charity work, ideas that people can utilize in their own communities to start paying it forward today. I really just believe in feeding our good karma, and I think that's a beautiful way to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to our fixers checking that out. So we like to
Yes.
leave our 15-minute fixers with a challenge. So Roshi, why don't you give them a challenge for this week in terms of their mental health and well-being?
Of course, I love that. Okay, so I think very fitting with the 21 90-day rule. That's something that I tell my clients, hey, we can start this today. This is something that anyone at any age can implement at any time. So you just have to have the desire to change. If you have a desire to change, you can do this, right? So the idea is to pick one thing. Change happens in small increments over time. So we start small. Pick one thing that you want to work on, that you want to change. I know for me, after the summer that we've had and just being better, I want better skin, I want better sleep, I want all the benefits of water. That's
Mhm.
my challenge to myself. And it's something that it's very simple to challenge to my clients. And I challenge it to all of you. If you were to, for example, add one more glass of water, eight more ounces of water a day to your daily regimen. I think we all use a little bit more water, right? So the idea is to, okay, you have a desire to change, you set your intention, you set your goal. My goal is to implement one additional cup of water a day. Today is day one. So that means every single day for the next 21 days, I'm going to drink one additional cup of water. So that means a little bit after Thanksgiving, this should be a good habit.
Mhm.
Okay. At right after Thanksgiving, when this thing is a good habit, I'm not out of the clear yet, because just as easily I could create a bad habit and do
Mhm.
21 days of not doing that, right? So the idea is to positively reinforce that change, to rewire your brain, if you will, undoing those old patterns of thinking and behaving and replacing them with healthier patterns of thinking and behaving. So after those 21 days, now we do it for another 90 days to reinforce one extra cup of water a day. for 90 days. So well into next year, probably sometime around Valentine's Day, that is when one additional cup of water in your daily regimen will become second nature. You won't even have to think about it.
Nice.
It takes work. It takes work, but it is totally doable.
Yes.
I love that.
It takes double work when you're starting around the holidays, by the way, but still doable. Still doable. Thank you for that challenge. So we're excited. So when you're starting your challenge, feel free to meet us in the comment section. Let us know what you're working on. Let us be accountability partners for you. We're here to
I
cheer
love
you
that.
on and rah. Reach out to Roshi. You can always reach out to Kim and myself. We're glad to cheer you on. So thank you again, Roshi, for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
This was awesome.
Thank you as always. And we're looking forward to continuing this series with you all. So we'll see you next week on another 15-minute fix. Have a great night, ladies. Thanks.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.